Hey everybody, and Tony here, back in Berlin with a review of Puccini's Turandot with conductor Claude Schnitzler, which I saw last night at the Deutsche Oper Berlin. This marks the second time I saw this production of Turandot because there were two singers who tackled the pivotal roles of Turandot and Calaf, whose names were rather new to me, though with the former I followed her career and she seemed to specialize in a huge range of roles, and a tenor whose name was completely and utterly new to me in the forms of Elisabeth Teige and Ragaa Eldin. I'll start off with Elisabeth Teige as Turandot. Now, when I say that her repertoire is expansive, I mean that she could sing the spinto soprano roles of Cho-Cho-San and Elsa von Brabant and the dramatic soprano roles of Brunhilde from Die Walküre, Siegfried, and Götterdämmerung. What I managed to hear from her voice last night was that it was a very sizable, beautiful, and absolutely focused instrument. She had the blazing high notes. She had the strong and commanding stage presence. She was definitely quite the shoo-in as Turandot, and she managed to make the role her own. Yes, it is indubitable that I can never get the voices of Dame Eva Turner, Gina Gigna, Germana Di Giulio, Birgit Nilsson, Gertrud Grob-Brandl, Gwyneth Jones, and Gena Dimitrova off of my ears, but I still have to give a lot of credit to Elisabeth Teige for being so courageous and so dedicated to singing this particular role. Now, I'm sure that her voice can sound a lot more beautiful, a lot more richer, and a lot fuller if she can be a lot braver on all the chest tones. That didn't mean that she didn't have chest tones in some areas. She had chest tones in the right places, but I'm talking about some of the other areas which I felt sounded a lot more hesitant and a little bit more collapsed than the ones that she managed to give. So I'm sure that if she continues to strengthen her chest tones and really dig into those with great abandon, we have a voice that can sing all of the major roles of the dramatic soprano repertoire. Once she keeps embracing those chest tones, which really make up all the drama and all of the passion and all of the excitement that make opera great, her voice will therefore be a lot more powerful, a lot richer, and a lot fuller than anyone can give her credit for. So here's hoping that Elisabeth Teige will continue to develop her strengths and even strengthen all of her chest tones, sing them in major full voice and full power so that she can be able to conquer everything in the dramatic soprano repertoire. Ragaa Eldin was a rather solid Calaf, and this is yet another singer who boasts quite an expansive repertoire, from the lyric tenor roles of Nemorino and Tamino to the meatier spinto tenor roles of the likes of Manrico. This gentleman managed to make a name for himself in all of these roles, and from what I heard last night, he was also in fine shape. Sure, his final high B in the Nessun Dorma was rather underpowered, but everything else he managed to sing with gusto and with such courage and with a lot of determination. Sure, he does pale in comparison to all of the great Calafs of the past, such as the original Calaf, Miguel Fletta, and even Giacomo Laurivolpi, Franco Corelli, Mario del Monaco, Ludovic Spies, and even Francesco Merli, Tony Ponce, and many other great dramatic tenors of the past. But I still have to give some credit to Mr. Eldin for being brave enough to tackle this role, which is not an easy job to do. Sometimes he did sound underpowered, but that did not get him down. He kept on moving on, kept on getting strong, and I seriously hope that he can continue to develop his core so that he can be able to do all of these wonderful spinto tenor parts in full voice and with no hesitations whatsoever. Making her role debut as Liu was Michot Marrero. Now, she was absolutely lovely and absolutely charismatic and rather charming in this particular role. She was also in fine voice, using her light lyric soprano voice to bring out Liu's innocence and Liu's overall beauty, and she managed to do a very solid job singing her two arias, Signore Ascolta and Tu che dice sei cinta. Now, with Signore Ascolta, I did feel that the chest tones were inaudible and were missing, but she got a bit better in Tu che dice sei cinta, in which she was able to throw herself in. And if you know me, I prefer a fuller sounding voice singing Liu. Voices that come into my mind when singing this particular slave girl are Leontine Price, Renata Tebaldi, Marcella Pobe, Montserrat Caballé, Katia Ricciarelli in her prime, and of course, Barbara Hendricks. Ergo, I do prefer a lot more body when singing the role of Liu. Sure, Michot Marero's voice did kind of lack in the extra body for that role, but I still have to give her a lot of credit for being so brave and so fearless for tackling this particular part. So I still have to salute her for all of her efforts for doing a job finally done. I know it was not easy for her to get into Liu's shoes, but Miss Marrero managed to do it with grace, physical agility, which she was so well known for, and a lot of feeling. The surprise for me was seeing and hearing how exceptionally Byung-Gil Kim sounded last night. His voice gained in richness, fullness, and depth, which did gain in that basso cantante dimension. Was he as great as, let's say, Giorgio Tozzi, Nicola Zaccaria, Nikolai Gyaurov, Paul Pliszka, or even the likes of Giulio Neri, Nazareno De Angelis, or even that of the great Fyodor Shalyapin, or even Adamo Didur? Not really, but he was still able to make the role his own, and he managed to grow as a fine singing actor. Yes, he still has those unusual sounding vowels, but I'm pretty sure that if he manages to iron out those little problem spots, he will definitely reach greatness. But as for his voice, I have to say this to Byung-Gil Kim. A huge A+ for this particular basso, for showing a lot of development, a lot more strength in his voice, and so much dedication in sharpening his craft as a singing actor. And here's hoping that he will continue to stay as strong, formidable, and tall and proud as ever, because this is a fabulous bass who has such a brilliant future ahead of him and has all of the makings of a fine basso cantante, and I cannot wait to see and hear him in all of those bigger basso roles, such as Philip II from Don Carlo, Ramfis from Aida, Sparafucile from Rigoletto, Massimiliano from Masnadieri, and many other exceptional roles for a basso. So I definitely have to salute Byung-Gil Kim for growing as a fine singing actor and for getting a lot stronger in terms of his voice. The other pleasant surprise for me was listening to how Peter Maus continued to sound like, even though he is in his early 70s. His voice still had that fine lyrical quality, and yes, it still also had that character tenor quality which has made him well known, but he still managed to sound so fine and so wonderfully when singing this character part of Altuum. And I also have to give mad props to Samuel Dale Johnson's gorgeously toned, focused, and handsomely dashing Bing, Michael Kim's lyrical, honey-toned, and absolutely lovely Bang, and Ya-Chung Huang's handsomely toned and wonderfully lyrical Bong, for being a trio of wonderful ministers. These three gentlemen managed to sell it in their respective roles, and their interpersonal chemistry not only made them individually formidable, but formidable as a group. So I definitely loved the magic that they were able to pull off of each other, and they truly left me under their spell. There was even some fine performances from Patrick Getty's tall, handsome, powerful, formidable, and absolutely mesmerizing Mandarin, even though I do feel that he should tackle the role of Timur as well, because he also has the voice which is so full and rich and absolutely powerful, like someone playing all of those wonderful notes on a cello. Spiridon Markopoulos' handsomely performed acting part as the Prince of Persia, and Alexandra Hutton's and Anna Buslitsa's melodic timing as the two maidens. So overall, the singing was rather solid, with a very fine performance accomplished by Elisabeth Teige, who stood out above the rest and managed to prove herself in this role, and a pleasant surprise coming from Mr. Byung-Gil Kim, whose voice got a lot stronger with much more development and true dedication to his craft, and everyone else who managed to muscle in and give it their all in their respective roles. This was definitely a fine ensemble cast that I was so happy to witness because of everything they have done. And the conducting done by Maestro Claude Schnitzler was fine. There were times that the orchestra dragged a bit. There were times that the singers and the orchestra didn't really go in sync. But in spite of all that, they kept on going, which is something that made the performance as strong as it was. And of course, let's not forget about the chorus and the orchestra of the Deutsche Oper Berlin. They continued to be as fabulous and wonderful as they truly are. So overall, with a strong performance accomplished by Elisabeth Teige, a very fine performance of Kalaf done by Ragaa Eldin, and of course, Byung-Gil Kim's astounding development as a singer when he sang Timur, last night's performance of Turandot really was a fine deal. And I was so happy to see those singers give it their all and even see a great number of them develop in the right way. And for those of you who watched this particular performance of Puccini's Turandot at the Deutsche Oper Berlin, what'd you think of it? Did you feel like Elisabeth Teige was a solid Turandot? Did you also feel that Byung-Gil Kim grew as a singing actor? And you also feel that he developed as a singer? Or did you feel like there was someone that stood out like a sore thumb? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow where I hope to review Mozart's Don Giovanni live from the Royal Opera House. So until then, have a great day, everybody.